My name is Sophia Bennett, and I'm almost 18, standing on the edge of a life I never imagined. Growing up in the small town of Willow Creek, Virginia, where traditions run deep and early marriages are as common as the summer fireflies, I was raised in a world where dreams often took a back seat to duty. But my heart? It was a canvas of hopes, painted with visions of love, of being seen, of being cherished. Not for grand gestures or city lights, but for a connection that felt like home. I dreamed of a man whose smile would make me feel like I was the only star in his sky. When my parents arranged my marriage to Ethan Carter, I didn't let tears fall. I'd seen girls my age walk down this path. Some found joy, others carried silent burdens. In Willow Creek, trust in family was everything, and my parents, with their warm hearts and steady hands, believed Ethan was kind, honorable. So I chose to trust them, even as a quiet fear curled inside me. Ethan wasn't cruel or intimidating. He was simply a stranger I'd now call husband, share a home with, and build a life beside. The days leading to the wedding were a whirlwind in our little town. Relatives flooded our modest home on Maple Street, their laughter mingling with the strum of acoustic guitars at backyard gatherings. Photos were snapped, plates of peach cobbler passed around, but beneath the festivities, my heart churned like a storm over Chesapeake Bay. At night, alone in my childhood bedroom, I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering about that night, the first night. Friends whispered stories. Some spoke of pain, others of magic, and a few just smiled, their silence louder than words. I didn't know what to expect, only that it loomed like a mountain I had to climb. The wedding day. The morning of the wedding dawned bright, the Virginia sun spilling through my window. I wore a white lace dress, my hands adorned with delicate henna patterns, a tradition my mother insisted on, inspired by her love for cultural crafts. The reddish-brown designs curled over my palms like vines, a symbol of celebration. My makeup was soft, my hair pinned with wildflowers from the fields near Shenandoah Valley. "You're glowing, Sophia," everyone said, their voices warm at the Willow Creek Community Center. I smiled for the cameras, but inside, I felt like a girl playing dress-up in a world too big for her. Leaving my parents' home was the hardest moment. My mother, Clara, wept as she hugged me, her tears soaking into my shoulder. My father, Henry, turned away, his eyes fixed on the oak tree in our yard. I held them both, my heart heavy as I stepped into the car that would take me to Ethan's family home in Richmond. The drive felt endless, each mile pulling me further from the familiar. Ethan's family welcomed me with open arms at their cozy house on Laurel Lane. His mother, Margaret, offered me homemade lemonade and a warm smile, while his cousins draped garlands of daisies around the porch. Their kindness was a soft blanket, but it couldn't quiet the fear knotting my chest. After the guests left, the house grew still, the air thick with the scent of magnolias. I was led to the bedroom, a space adorned with fairy lights and a bed sprinkled with rose petals. My breath caught as I stepped inside, my hands trembling as I sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the delicate setup. My heart pounded so loudly I swore it echoed off the walls. My lips were dry, my eyes fixed on the hardwood floor. I'd met Ethan only a handful of times, brief, polite conversations at the local diner or during family visits. He'd been kind, but tonight felt different. Tonight, the weight of husband and wife hung in the air, heavy and unfamiliar. The first night. The door creaked open, and my stomach flipped. I didn't look up, but I felt him, Ethan, enter the room. The bed dipped slightly as he sat beside me, leaving a careful distance. The silence was a living thing, wrapping around us, broken only by the sound of my own shallow breaths. I braced myself, unsure of what would come next. "Sophia," he said, his voice low and gentle, like the breeze rustling through the Blue Ridge Mountains. "I know this is a lot. I don't want to rush you. Can we just Talk? His words caught me off guard. They weren't commanding or expectant. They were soft, almost hesitant. I glanced at him, and for the first time, I really saw him. Not the stranger I'd married, but a man with kind hazel eyes and a nervous smile, like he was just as unsure as I was. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his tie loosened, and there was a vulnerability in his expression that made him seem human. A small wave of relief washed over me. He reached for a glass of water on the nightstand and offered it to me. Our fingers brushed as I took it, sending a spark through my skin. My cheeks warmed, and I looked down, clutching the glass like a lifeline. He chuckled, a soft, warm sound. "You don't have to be nervous, Sophia. I'm not here to scare you." I smiled, just a little, and it felt like a crack in the wall I'd built around myself. That tiny smile seemed to unlock something between us, a quiet understanding. Ethan didn't push or move closer. Instead, he leaned back, his hands resting casually on his knees, and started talking. Not about the wedding or expectations, but about his life. Silly stories, like the time he tried to fix his mom's car in high school and ended up stranded on Route 29, or how he'd been so nervous before walking into this room that he'd asked his best friend Jake for advice. Jake had laughed and told him, "Just don't trip over your own feet." I listened, my shoulders loosening with each word. His honesty was disarming, his awkwardness endearing. He wasn't trying to be a perfect husband or a commanding figure. He was Ethan, a guy from Richmond who was just as scared as I was. Slowly, I felt the fear in my chest begin to unravel. A moment of trust. There was a pause, and Ethan looked at me, his eyes soft. "Can I hold your hand?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, then nodded. His hand reached for mine, warm and steady, but not forceful. He held it like it was something precious, his thumb brushing gently over my knuckles. My heart raced, but not with fear. This was something new. His words hit me like a warm tide, washing away a fear I'd carried for weeks. My eyes stung with tears, not from sadness, but from relief. I'd braced myself for a night I had to endure, but here was Ethan, offering me something I hadn't dared hope for: care. He didn't flinch when I cried. Instead, he reached out, his fingers gently brushing a tear from my cheek. The touch was so soft, so careful, that I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of it settle into me. Then he did something I'll never forget. He leaned forward and pressed a kiss to my forehead, slow, deliberate, like a vow. "We have time, Sophia," he said. "Tonight isn't about fear, it's about starting something real." Those words broke something open inside me. Not a wound, but a door. I realized this wasn't the story I'd feared, the one whispered in hushed tones by others. This was different. This was mine. A night of connection. Ethan didn't turn off the lights. "It's better this way, isn't it?" he said, glancing at the soft glow of the fairy lights. I nodded, grateful for the warmth they cast over the room. He lay down beside me, leaving space, his eyes on the ceiling. I stared at the floral canopy above the bed, expecting awkwardness, but instead, there was peace. After a moment, he turned his head. "Tell me something about you," he said, his voice like a gentle invitation. I thought for a second, surprised by the question. No one had asked me that in so long. Not my parents, not my friends, all caught up in wedding plans. "I love painting," I said finally. "Not fancy art, just sketches. I used to draw in the margins of my notebooks during math class in Willow Creek High." He grinned. "I bet those notebooks were masterpieces. Ever draw anything embarrassing like a cartoon of your teacher?" I laughed, the sound surprising me. "Maybe once or twice." I told him about my little sister, Lily, who always sneaks my snacks, and how I tried to learn guitar but gave up after breaking 2 strings. He listened like every word was a gift, his eyes bright with interest. Then he shared his own stories, how he once burned a batch of cookies so badly his smoke alarm went off, or how his mom still calls him Buddy, even though he's 22. Our hands stayed linked, his thumb tracing small circles over mine. He didn't pull me closer or rush the moment. He let it unfold like a flower opening to the sun. After a while, he turned to me, his expression soft but serious. "Can I hold you? Only if you're okay with it." I looked into his eyes and saw no expectation, only care. I nodded, and he moved slowly, wrapping one arm around me. I rested my head on his chest, hearing the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. My body, tense for so long, began to soften. I felt safe, not just in his arms, but in my own skin. Building something real. We talked into the early hours, sharing pieces of ourselves. He told me about his fear of heights, how he'd frozen on a hiking trail in Shenandoah National Park. I admitted I'd never learned to swim, despite living near the James River. We laughed. We paused. We let silences linger without forcing them away. His hand moved gently over my back, not to claim, but to comfort. "Sophia," he whispered, "tonight isn't about being husband and wife. It's about being human. It's about making space for each other." My throat tightened, not with fear, but with gratitude. No one had ever spoken to me like that, like my heart mattered more than my role. I lifted my head and, without thinking, kissed his cheek. His smile was soft, unguarded. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. I nodded, and his lips met mine, gentle, unhurried, like a promise. The kiss deepened, but never rushed, never demanding. My hands found his shoulders, not because I was told to, but because I wanted to. We laughed when our elbows bumped, paused when we felt shy, and those imperfections made it real. He kept asking, "Is this okay?" And each time I said yes, I felt more in control, more seen. As dawn crept through the window, we fell asleep, my head on his chest, his hand in mine. I remember thinking, this isn't what I expected. It's better. Not because of grand gestures, but because of his kindness, his patience, his respect. A new dawn. I woke to the sound of birds outside, the morning light filtering through the curtains. Ethan was already awake, his eyes soft as he watched me. "Good morning," he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Good morning," I replied, a shy smile tugging at my lips. We lay there, talking about nothing and everything, his mom's overly sweet iced tea, my habit of losing every left sock. He asked, "Did you feel safe last night?" The question wasn't about his pride. It was about my heart. "Yes," I said, safer than I ever thought I could. His eyes softened, and he kissed my forehead again. That's all I wanted. We spent the morning exploring our new home. He showed me the quirks of the house, the creaky step on the staircase, the drawer that always sticks. His mother, Margaret, greeted us in the kitchen with pancakes and a knowing smile. "How was your first night, sweetheart?" she asked. I blushed but smiled. It was peaceful. Weeks turned into months, and our connection grew. Ethan never stopped being gentle, never stopped asking how I felt. I learned his fears, his dreams. He wanted to open a small bookstore in Richmond, a place for stories to live. I shared my own hopes, like painting a mural on our bedroom wall. We had quiet days, awkward moments, but the respect between us was a steady foundation. One night I asked him, "Were you scared that first night?" He laughed, a little sheepish. "Terrified. I didn't want to mess it up. I just wanted you to feel safe." His honesty brought tears to my eyes. That was the moment I knew our story wasn't just about love. It was about trust, about building something real, step by gentle step. A message to others. Looking back, I don't remember every detail of that night, the exact shade of my dress or the scent of the flowers. But I remember Ethan's voice, the warmth of his hand, the way he made me feel seen. That night wasn't just the start of a marriage. It was the start of me understanding my own worth. I wasn't a prize to be claimed. I was a person to be met, and Ethan met me with grace. To every girl stepping into her first night with fear, I want you to know, your heart matters. Your voice matters. The right person will see that, will wait, will listen. And to every man, be the reason she feels safe, not silent. Be the reason she believes in love, not fear. That's where true connection begins, not in haste, but in understanding. Our story isn't perfect, but it's ours. It's built on small moments, shared laughs, quiet talks, hands held gently. And every day, I'm grateful for a beginning that wasn't about obligation, but about trust. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's spread the message that love, at its core, is about respect and care. More stories are coming. Stay tuned.